Born and raised in the motherland, chasing a better life. Story of an immigrant.
Concrete pastures.
Concrete pastures.
Concrete pastures.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Concrete Pastures. I am Nancy Mlemosisi. As always, I am super excited to be here another week, another day. For anybody who is new, welcome to the family of your fellow immigrants, your fellow dreamers. We inspire each other through our stories. We also give insights on what it's like to be an immigrant anywhere in the world. And if you would like to be a guest, you'd like to inspire somebody out there with your unique story, please feel free to reach out to me on our new website, concretepastures.com. While you're there, please subscribe to be on the mailer list. And for all of you guys that are already, our loyal listeners, please check out the website. It's amazing. So much love went into it. Let me know what you think. Guys, as you listen, I would appreciate it if you leave me a review. Let me know what you took away from any conversation that you loved on the podcast so far. And also, rate the podcast. I would love it if it's 5 stars. On today's episode, we actually have our first guest from Nigeria. I am super excited about this. The goal is for us to have, everyone from every country in the world. A girl can dream. I am dreaming. I'm a dreamer. And I'm excited to have a conversation with him. I want to know a little bit about Nigeria. But before we get into the conversation with our guest, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for tuning in every week, every day. As soon as we drop the episodes, you guys continue to listen. I appreciate you. Every week we get a new country listening. So thank you, Netherlands, for joining in. Welcome to the family. Zimbabwe, my African family, thank you so much for joining in. And for all of you guys that continue to listen, I appreciate you. Thank you for motivating me every day, every week. My heart is so full. This week, the past week, we were featured on fmgradio.com/listen. I'm going to repeat that one more time. fmgradio.com/listen. I'm just humbled. Jody reached out to me to feature Concrete Pastures on her platform. It's a radio station. I am just blown out of my mind. I never thought this podcast will go that far, get this much visibility. I appreciate you, Jody. Thank you so much for supporting independent podcasters like myself. Guys, check out the radio. It's a regular radio. They also have other podcasters on their platform, as well as if you are looking to become a podcaster, they have a school for podcasting. If you're interested, please reach out. Again, let's support fmgradio.com/listen. There's so many podcasts there. Concrete Pastures comes on Thursdays, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Sundays, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure let's tune in. Let's tune in together. Let's listen to Concrete Pastures on the radio. Okay? All right. Don't get me too excited. I'm so excited. Okay. On our next guest, again, like I said, he's our first guest from Nigeria. He's our lucky charm. I'm sure many more Nigerian brothers and sisters are going to be coming on the platform. I'm excited to hear his story. We're focusing our conversation on entrepreneurship. So for all of you guys that are, business-minded, looking to start a business, this is on Nosa's perspective about entrepreneurship. So this is not the end-all, be-all, but he's giving us insight on what he did for his business and some of the, tips and all the beautiful things about, starting a business and all the not so, great things about, starting a business as well. So without further ado, Nosa Iyare grew up in a military family in Nigeria. He came to the US in 2017, living a 7-year career in banking. He started a business in the tracking space in 2021. Like I said, this is our area of focus. We're going to be focusing on entrepreneurship. And his way of relaxing, guys, is listening to podcasts. Nosa is a host of his own podcast called Culture Class. Let's make sure we support him as well. When you guys are out listening to Concrete Pastures, let's show him some love on Culture Class. The podcast, it's great. Take a listen. Please, let's welcome Nosa Iyare. Welcome, Nosa. Hey.
Hey, Nancy. How's it going?
You're my first guest from Nigeria. I am so excited. I have only seen Nigeria in the lens of, the TV and the movies, the music, everything. So could you just give us a little bit of a taste of what it was like to be in Nigeria and what got you to come into America?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking before the interview and I was like, this is very surprising because you live in New York. And I was like, there are tons of Nigerians in New York. So I was like, how am I the first Nigerian guest you have? But yeah,
yes,
we're
my
real
lucky
people.
charm.
We don't bite as well. So a lot of people tend to have all these Nigerian stereotypes.
So you're my lucky charm, and I want to have more and more Nigerian brothers and sisters on here.
Yeah. Well, the best kind of friends to have are the life of the party, literally. So,
Yo, that's good.
Growing up in Nigeria was pretty cool. I grew up in a military family. So my dad was in the Nigerian Air Force. I think he did like 33 or 34 years or something. When I was very young, Nigeria was still under military rule. The army, Babangida, Abacha, all the coups and whatnot, growing up in the mid to late 90s. So my dad being in the military, this was kind of like why I just tend to love my dad. Like, even though the military were in power and a lot of people in the military, his colleagues, were abusing their power, you have situations of, obviously, people acting out. He never did that. Like, we were in a military dispensation during a military rule, and we would drive on the street and we would get stopped by the police. And it was kind of like a taboo because the way it was like the military ranked higher than the police. So like, it was like, you're stopping me, even though he wasn't in uniform, right? And all he would need to do is just tell them, hey, I'm officer this, or this is my rank, or this is my ID. And they'll be like, everyone will scramble, right? But he never did that. He'll like allow them search the car, tell them, are they having a good day? And I'll be in the backseat and I'll be looking like, you have the power to, really like move along and whatnot. But he never did that. So that's kind of like my recollection. Growing up, I lived in many places all around Nigeria. So Nigeria is a country of 36 states. We probably lived in, I want to say 15 to 20 of those states because we moved around so much because just virtue of the fact that my dad was in the military, I was always getting posted. Later in life when I was like in my teenage years, he wanted us to just settle in one place. So he would go around and we'll just be in like Lagos. But I, moving around, like it was at the time I hated it. But right now, like I have friends from so many places, like my Facebook, like people all over Nigeria, people I know, I got to see the country. And that's kind of like my introduction into like meshing with other cultures, like locally. Like I got the opportunity to travel later in life, like internationally. But now, and I always say that's kind of like maybe one of the reasons I started Culture Class Podcast. Just my affinity for culture probably started from when I was younger, moving around.
Yeah,
so that's kind of like a summary of just growing up in Nigeria. And you have stuff like, of course, Nigeria is big on sports. Nigeria is big on music. So growing up, you always like go outside, go for parties. Being a teenager, steal the car, go outside. All that stuff. Yeah, that's kind of like a summary.
Nice. Oh, how's the food in Nigeria? I've tried the food here. I'm sure it's night and day. But how is the food in Nigeria? Is everything we see on TV so delicious? My mouth is watering.
Of course. Nigerians like to brag. So I'll say Nigerians have the best food on the continent. Yeah. Shout out. Let me bring out my Nigerian side and say that. Nigeria's food is so diverse. Western Nigeria, the Yorubas, they make a lot of good stuff with like tomatoes and stuff like, amala, is pretty good. In the East, we have the soups, talking about like goosey, things like that. Down South, we have like ogbono, up north too. So it's a very diverse, like when I talk about Nigerian food, but the staples always remain like jollof.
Gotcha.
Jollof is kind of like a staple that everyone kind of like partakes in. And then you have your swallows, so your pounded yam, amala, eba, then different types of soups and things like that. Then down south towards like Port Harcourt, Bayelsa, we have a lot of like seafood type options where people like eat like tilapia. Pepper soup is a very huge one. Suya, which is kind of like skewered meat on a stick, roasted over an open fire. There's that as well. But Nigerian food is just very diverse. It's kind of like its people. You can never get bored with Nigerians. You can never get bored with Nigerian food. There's always something new, kind of like every day. So I encourage you guys to try it if you guys are
You just sold me. Every year there's an African market here. It's like African restaurants, I should say. One year I tried the suya chicken. I mean, it's an acquired taste for me. It has the nuts and everything else, so everything else mixed together. It tastes really good, but it was an acquired taste for me, and everybody was raving about it. The line was, I don't even know, like somewhere over there.
This is in New York, right?
This is in New York. The line was the longest line. Like out of all the restaurants that were there, the suya barbecue thing that they were doing was the longest line. And I stood in that line. I was like, okay, let me see what the rev is about.
I'm sure people miss it. Like people you don't get to see suya here often. So if you go to like, festivals and stuff and you see suya, and it's like a finger food as well. Like you don't need a or anything, so it's like perfect for like picnics or whatnot. But chicken suya is not as common as beef suya though. People do different types of suya. Some people do goat suya, some people do bush rabbit suya.
We're making people hungry right now, okay?
Yeah, that's good. Go out there and try it.
Oh my God, I'm sold. So what got you to come to America? You could have gone anywhere and you decided to come here.
Land of opportunity, right? Just like the millions of other people who I would say, are searching for greener pastures or something like that. It's like, hey, how can I plan and try to make, a better future of myself, since a lot of the African leaders are not doing what they're supposed to do. And, consider a couple of countries, Australia, the UK, all that good stuff. I had a brother who had come about, I want to say about maybe 4 years before me, 3-4 years or something. So he came for school and he was kind of like, we call him Moses because he led the way. So he literally led the way because we we're a group of like 7-8 guys living in like a 2-bedroom apartment, just trying to make things happen in our early 20s. And he left, and because of him, like 80-90% of people are in like other countries, because he like made us see that it was possible. And then everyone just kind of like followed suit. So I came here for school 5 years ago in 2017. So yeah.
Were you able to achieve the MBA that you came to get?
Yes. I graduated in 2019, a year before the pandemic, thank God. So, we're able to have an actual graduation ceremony and not virtual and all that. And after I went to school in Washington, D.C. And after that, I moved to Colorado.
How was the adjustment when you came from Nigeria, you came here for school? How was that adjusting to the U.S.?
It wasn't that bad. I didn't have a lot of culture shock, to be honest, because I grew up watching the Discovery Channel, shout out to you, Dad, watching, MTV and all these things, and shout out to hip hop as well. So, you kind of like get a little bit acclimatized, we're in like 100-degree weather back home wearing Timbs and whatever, because DMX was wearing Timbs in New York,
of course.
All that stuff. So, of course, there were a little bit of culture shock as far as the driving. Driving back home is a totally different ball game than driving here. That's why I can remember, like, just red means stop and green means go back home. But here in the US, green means, okay, if you want to turn left, like still give way for people coming this way before you turn. I'm like, well, then why is it green? Like, might as well be red. So I almost like going to a few, because when I just see green, I just like move, without looking. So of course there was that. And just, you know, little things, you know, just getting a phone, opening a bank account, just seeing how things were different. But I always say, like, emigrating for school is kind of like the softest way or the easiest way to emigrate, because, you know, school, it's its own little bubble.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are people there to help you from the International Students Association. You know, it's kind of like an easier way. So if you spend time in school, maybe 2 to 4 years before you come, you integrate with the larger society. It's kind of like a softer landing type of thing.
I'm glad that you say that, because with the school, you get that support. You're completely right, compared to some of us that just showed up. They just, you know, did it and tried to figure it out. It's very challenging when you're trying to figure it out on your own without that support. But it's great. Did you research the school? Which school did you go to? Just in case somebody wants to go to that school.
Yeah, I did research. Like I think at the very beginning, I had like a list of 36 or 37 different schools.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in different countries. You know, like I said, I was looking at the UK as well, Australia.
Yeah.
So I was like, but most of the schools were here in the US. So I was kind of like, I ended up applying for, I don't know, maybe like 8 or 9 of those. Mm-hmm. Probably got admitted into maybe 6 or 7. And then I chose the one with the best scholarship, pretty much. So I went to American University, which is a school in Northwest DC. It's a school where, let me see, which alumni do we have? Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street. He's an alumni. Judge Judy.
Judge Judy.
Yeah, she's an alumni.
Nice.
And tons of senators and politicians are all alumni, because I think like the school really like is one of like the bigger public administration schools in the US. A lot of people tend to go to Capitol Hill or Department of Defense or whatever from there. But yeah, I went there for my MBA. It was pretty interesting. Smaller campus compared to like maybe University of Maryland or you know, the other schools in DC. But I enjoyed myself. It was pretty good.
That's good. So we talk about a lot of immigrants dating. Chulu asked me on the podcast for immigrants, how was it dating for you in America as an immigrant?
Dating, you say?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. Like I said, you know, that whole Nigerian thing in us, like we like variety in every aspect of life. So it's like, where I was very open. That was like one of the things I was looking forward to. I was like, okay, for the first year or two, I love my Black women. Like, you guys are awesome. But I was like, man, like, let me just see, like, what else is out there, you know, type of thing. So, yeah, I was really open to that. I ended up, for context, like American University is a predominantly white institution, right? Like, it's mostly white. It's unlike you know, Howard University and University of Maryland that have. So, you know, your options are even kind of limited in that sense. And then also being like a grad student, like you can't really be frolicking with like undergrads per se, because a lot of them are still pretty young and all that. So yeah, dating for me was, you know, like everyone else, you know, kind of like, hey, you know, dating apps out there, see what's going on, maybe around campus. I ended up being in, I guess I can call it a relationship with a lady from India for a while. And then, you know, just a bunch of other people, you know, it was kind of okay. It was interesting, you know, as well. There were cultural differences in dating. I remember when I was with someone and she went into the bathroom, and I don't know if you guys have like this African sponge that's kind of like a net, it's kind of like a mesh kind of thing. And she was like, what's that? You know, everyone here like uses washcloths, right? Yes. I don't know why, but I was like, nope, like, go get my African sponge, use my thing so we can scrub the melanin and all that. And she was like, she didn't understand what that was. So she was like, what is this? You know, type of thing. I'm like, yeah, it's a sponge. So like, wait, not a washcloth. So you know, there were interesting, you know, dynamics like that. And, you know, of course, the food, you know, I'll introduce her to Nigerian food. She introduced me to whatever. So dating was cool. You know, I'm a very open-minded person. So I'm like, you know, you can find love anywhere. Type of thing. But I was a little bit deliberate, like when in my first year or two, to like, okay, I wanted to kind of like experience other cultures as well. So yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you shared that. That was so cool. It was just for fun. I wanted to know, everybody has different, you know, answers when it comes to this question, actually. We have to be open-minded when we go to these countries. It's different. It's not like back home, sometimes you're from the same culture, but here you come, it's very different. So why did you move to Colorado?
Why did I move to Colorado? I got a job out here after grad school. This was pre-pandemic. I really wanted to stay in DC. I had grown accustomed to the city.
Yeah.
It was, Chocolate City, shout out DC. And, but now moving out here, I don't regret it because I always like to say, you live in New York. I always like to say the East Coast is like for anyone under 30. Once you're above 30, just move to the Midwest or the South or whatever, because it's a slower pace of life. The East Coast is so, fast paced and all that good stuff. So coming from Africa, come from Nigeria, I was like, this is nothing, but just coming out here, more better work-life balance, everything's more stable life for me, so I don't regret it. But to answer your question, I got a job out here after grad school. That's kind of why I came out here. I don't work there anymore.
Congratulations, nice.
That was kind of the reason why I got out. So,
but the weather over there, do you guys
in Colorado?
Yes, but do you guys have 4 seasons in Nigeria or no?
Oh, you mean the weather in Nigeria?
Yeah,
no,
how is the weather in Nigeria? 4
seasons. No. Most African countries, we have a dry season and a rainy season, so it's just 2. In early January, we tend to have something called Harmattan, which is kind of foggy, kind of.
Gotcha.
It's really cold and dry, especially up north and some parts of the southwest of Nigeria. It's it's not snow, but it's just foggy, low visibility, very cold, very dry type of thing. For the most part, it's rainy and dry season, like most parts of sub-Saharan Africa. So,
because Colorado, geez, I came there. Let's see, it was summertime, and we went to Pikes Peak over there. There was snow on top. It was cold. We had to put on jackets. I was just okay, wintertime, when I see on TV, the news, it's a blizzard all the time. So that's why I'm why Colorado? And I know.
Oh, why you live in New York? What are you talking about?
It's not as bad. It's not as bad as Colorado.
What part of New York do you live in?
I live in Brooklyn.
Oh my God, come on.
It is not that bad. I cannot compare my weather to yours. The blizzard that you guys experience, all of the snow is just way too much, piles.
I have a brother who lives in Chicago, so I don't know which is worse. Denver isn't that bad. I understand what you're saying. Pikes Peak, that's not necessarily Denver. That's it's in Colorado, but not the city of Denver. So people who live on the mountains tend to get it more rough. So if we get an inch in Denver, you probably have 3-4 inches wherever in the remaining part of the state. So
Oh, okay. So whatever we see on TV, it's all the way to the mountains. And
Colorado is a big place. Denver is just the capital city. You have Fort Collins up north, Colorado Springs down south. Telluride, Aspen, the mountain regions, things Aspen. Like that. So it's a very big area. Parts of Colorado that will take me probably 3 hours to get there. So, but I just live in Denver, which is kind of the capital type thing.
It's beautiful. Denver is beautiful. We stopped there and then we went to Pikes Peak. It was really nice. Good weather, good fresh air. That's what I remember. So fresh.
Oh, it depends. If you go up to the mountains, you might need oxygen. Colorado actually sells oxygen and stuff. Yeah. So if you're not used to the weather here and you just came here for the first time and you're going into the mountains, you might have to have a can of oxygen just because your lungs won't be used to that type of altitudes and stuff. So
it's true. They did check our tires. They checked everything to make sure that we're okay to continue driving because we drove there.
Exactly.
And, it was fun. So now you have a business in tracking. Could you just share how you got to that, how you started the business? This way somebody maybe trying to be an entrepreneur can learn a thing or two from your side of things.
Man, that's a very broad question. I'll try to, how I stumbled into this, I always say no one really grows up thinking about the trucking industry. So I have a company called Truck Desk, right? And what we do is we're compliance consulting company for trucking companies. So we help trucking companies comply with federal and state regulations, right? Or at least that's how we started off. We're kind of like thinking about getting to the equipment side before the end of the year, but I could talk about that. I stumbled onto it, to be honest. I moved out to Colorado after business school, like we said. The job I got out here was as an underwriter. It just so happened that, you know, a lot of my clients were truckers. Like the firm I was with out here, you know, did a lot of like financing for small businesses, particularly like immigrant run businesses. Kind of like, wow, that was kind of like why I was employed. It was a good fit for me because I had like the technical ability as far as like, you know, finance and whatnot. And then, you know, I had that immigrant component to it. Yeah. So yeah, at the peak, like 70-80% of my clients were truckers. So that's kind of like my introduction to the industry. So fast forward to the pandemic, when I left that job, you know, I was kind of like, hey, you know, I've grown so familiar with this industry. It'd be interesting to start something in the industry. You know, my first thought process was actually to go out and buy a truck and to team up with a former client of mine. Yeah. Hey, let's run a trucking company. Let's grow that fleet and, you know, whatnot. But during the pandemic, like you couldn't find a truck to save your life, like supply chain issues, like, you know, trucks, cars. Wow. You know, it was just, and if you could find a truck, it was so expensive. So I was like, okay, how else can I provide value? That's why I started off as a consultant business. But challenges in a business, I mean, man, every day is different, man. Like you go through challenges.
So before you go into the challenges, like for consultant, so I'm coming in as your client. Mm-hmm. What exactly am I coming to consult with you?
Yeah, of course. So there's an agency called the FMCSA. Mm-hmm. It's an agency of the Department of Transportation. It's the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. So what they do is they pretty much regulate the trucking industry as well as some other industries. So they try to make sure that all the trucks on the road are pretty much a safety agency, kind of like the NTSB is for airlines. The FMCSA is for truckers, right? So, and you know, when government regulation comes into play, like it's very difficult to navigate. Like they have a regulation code this thick, you know, more than 600 pages. And, you know, these truckers just want to operate your stuff, right? So, hey, it can be one-off things like, hey, I'm getting audited. Can you help me? This is what I need to do. Or I'm preparing for an audit. This is what I need to do. Or I'm thinking about adding, you know, new equipment or hiring new people. You know, I just need you to guide me what I need to do. Or conventional stuff like, hey, I need to maintain something we call driver qualification files. Or, you know, I need to make sure my drug and alcohol testing program is on point. Or, you know, I need to make sure I have certain permits, you know, for certain states. So that's kind of like a recurring thing. Or I need my books in order, like accounting type of thing, bookkeeping, because I want to apply for a loan to acquire more trucks next year. So, you know, it really depends, but we focus on compliance. So making sure they adhere to federal and state regulations as far as the trucking industry is concerned, and they don't end up paying fines. That's kind of like what we do. So that can be specific as far as like, I need this specific thing done as far as compliance, or that can be general as far as, well, I just need to put you on retainer to maintain a good compliance program, like week in, week out. So kind of like a lawyer relationship in that sense. Well, I'm not a lawyer, so yeah. So
this is for, let's say, truck owners. Like if they own the business, like for the truck,
yes.
If I own a truck, I can reach out to you for consultation for certain things.
Yes. This is for specifically for trucking companies. It just so happens that majority of the trucking companies are really small fleets. So 90% of the industry are companies with small fleets of less than 6 trucks, right? So obviously the Amazons of the world, the FedExes of the world, the UPSs of the world, they have the money to have like transportation lawyers and entire compliance department, but those guys are less than 10% of the industry. So people like us like serve the remaining 90% of, you know, you have 3-4 trucks, you know, you're running a trucking company out of Missouri, you know, you're still subject to the same regulation as Amazon is, but you don't have the resources that Amazon has. So you tend to pay, like, instead of having like a compliance staff on a compliance person on staff, you just pay a compliance agency like mine, and you know, you get your stuff done.
Got it. Oh, interesting. Very interesting. And what are some of the challenges that you've faced through building your platform?
Man. Man, really think hard before you go into business, man. I mean, going into business specifically, like you really need to make sure that you have you're doing something that you're interested in doing. Like a lot of people, and I see this in Nigeria as well, we were people who like money, right? So we just tend to, tech is the in thing now. So everyone is flocking into tech, even though, they can't do any coding to save your life, or they just try to, hack their way. Like try to go into something that you can be 100% in. Yeah. And not like just mediocre, right? Because, there'll be people depending on you. You'll be providing a service. You want to produce something of value. As far as challenges, man, you face challenges every day. I mean, the first blow was, I talked to you about wanting to start a trucking company with a former client of mine during the pandemic, right? So the first blow, like that person ghosted me. So that was not, I was like, welcome to the industry. I'm ghosting you. So we had already talked about it. We had, ironed out some type of verbal agreement. Like I'd gone to his office. He had already showed me, okay, this is the desk you're going to be working out of, whatever. I don't know what happened. I think he had a silent partner who was invested in the business, who he needed approval from as well to bring me in or something. But till tomorrow, like, I really don't know. Like, and do just stop picking on my calls. Like, I was supposed to start on Monday and like, okay, let's build this thing together. And like on Sunday, he just stopped picking on my calls. I was like, well, what's going on? I tried to call. Like, went to his office. Like, well, what's going on? So I was like, okay, how can I figure this thing out on my own, right? In business, you have to be very, I was kind of like talking about this to like, we're doing this thing called Podbreak, right? And part of the things we're doing is to reach out to people, right? And and that's like on the podcasting side, right? And we had emailed a few people like once or twice, and I was like, okay, the last time we emailed them was like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Let's like follow up with that. And someone on the team was like saying, oh, we had emailed them like once already or twice, maybe they're not interested. Like we shouldn't like disturb them. Like, what are you talking about? Like the Nigerian email was like, what are you talking about? Like I say that to say like tying it to business, like you have to have a sales mindset in a way. Like you have to be comfortable hearing no. Like you're going to hear no a lot. Like the name of the game is numbers, right? The more rice you throw against the wall, some of it tends to stick, right? So you just have to go. You're not afraid of like going out there, networking with people, going out there, introducing yourself, pitching people, trying to sell people, all that stuff. Like, so you kind of like have to have a sales mindset. So like, if you're not one that has that mindset, like really partner up with someone that has that mindset that can go out there. I say that to say that, it took me a while to kind of like adjust. The trucking industry is not like corporate. A lot of people are like owner operators, like small business, that type of thing. And these people want value for their money. You hear about, a trucker language or trucker mouth, they curse, they're very direct, that type of thing. So you really have to be someone who's like, that can contend, those type of individuals. So that was like a learning curve as far as a challenge as well. There's always a challenge of money, right? Whether that's capital to start or capital to grow or just money to sustain, like revenue month over month. And, patience is a big thing in business, right? Like it doesn't happen overnight. Like you don't start today and tomorrow you just start rolling in dough or whatever. Like, my business turned 1 year old last month in April.
Congratulations.
And like April was kind of like my like I made like I can probably throw the number out there, it's fine, but that I made like what was like $3,300 or something, or $3,500, and that was kind of like my most impressive month so far. That's kind of like an uptick. So I say that to say after 1 year of not earning a salary and like making $3,500 dollars in a month, and some people don't even have that story. Some people. So you really need to have patience, and you tend to get creative. Don't spend money that you don't have to spend. So if you want to go into business, like do things. Kind of like one advice I'll give is like do things when it's not pressing for you to do them, if that makes sense. Like, hey, even from registering your company, right? Oh, you want to start a business, say in 2-3 years time, register your company now. when it's not pertinent, when it's not like pressing for you to register your company. Don't wait till, you're trying to chase this grant and then, or you're trying to, raise this money or do whatever. That's when you're not scrambling to register your company. Caveat is, you want to start a business right soon. Register your company now, because most banks, they tend to look at, your incorporation date to be more than 18 months or 24 months to be able to work with you. Because less than 24 months, the SBA will classify you as a startup, right? That's Small Business Administration in the US. So register your company before, and, you can just, do it as a side gig, do some business here and there with friends and family. Make sure you file your taxes every year. That's very important. If you know you need a loan for your business, you need to work with a bank. Start building those relationships before you need a loan. Open that account, get to know your account officer, go into the buildings. Not every time you have to be on the phone. Know their name, build that relationship. So 1 year from now, if you need investors, start sending those updates before you need to raise money. This is what we're working on, tweet about it, blog about it. So when you eventually ask for that money a year from now, it doesn't like come as a surprise, or people will be able to track your progress. So if you need to hire employees, start to learn like, what does it take? Even though you don't have the money to pay employees today, like what does it take to hire employees in the US? What do I need to watch out for? What does it take to outsource certain things? Okay, what does paying salary look like? What type of taxes do I need to withhold? Like what type of employees? Okay, do mock interviews. Like even if you're not ready to employ, you can do a mock interview and tell the person that, hey, I'm sorry, like it didn't work out, whatever. Just getting into the game. So I say that to say, like in business, if you want to start a business, especially in the US, try to do things before they're needed, right? Just be in front of things. Like do all those things before they're needed, because if you wait till, you need to raise capital, or you need a loan, or you need to hire, or you need to do whatever, till you start doing all those things, like, you're going to make mistakes anyway, but it's better to do those things and like build that muscle memory before the time comes. So,
Oh, so much good stuff in there. So much good stuff. Great. You've already given advice for anybody who's looking to start. We can get into Podbreak. You already mentioned, I'm part of Podbreak now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're glad to have you.
It's exciting. Please share what Podbreak is about and who is allowed to join.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Podbreak is pretty much, so I have a podcast as well, right? That's just been a passion project of mine that has been going on for like 3.5 years now. Kind of like having a podcast for like 3+ years. Obviously, I got to meet other podcasters, yourself included, during my journey. So I thought, late last year, I just reached out to a couple of podcast friends and said, hey, you know what? Let's come together and do something. Like collaboration is kind of like the name of the game these days, right? So we came up with something called Podbreak. Podbreak is kind of like a summer gathering for African podcasters in the US, so in the diaspora, right? We have some people in Canada and some people in Europe as well. So we're coming together over the 4th of July weekend physically over the span of 3 days. We're renting out like a house type thing. So I guess you can classify it as kind of like a creator house. And, we're just coming together to bond, meet listeners and produce content, most importantly, like together and like put that out. So it's happening, July 1st to 4th this year over the 4th of July weekend in Chicago, Illinois. And we have, I think we have 20 podcasters currently in Podbreak, and we're all podcasters of African descent, right? So you're Zambian, I'm Nigerian. We have people from Ghana, Uganda, Morocco, different people, all African podcasters. Most of them live in the States, some live in Canada, some live in Europe, but people in the States and Canada are going to be coming together in Chicago to just like produce content and bond. So it's kind of like a summer break, but mixed with producing episodes and, getting to meet listeners and all that good stuff. So this is kind of like our first outing. So that's what
I can't
Podbreak
just
is.
Imagine this big party. This is going to be like...
Tell me about it.
It's a big party. Let's talk about Culture Class.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come up with Culture Class, and where do you get the time? You work, you have a business. Just saying, come on.
Right.
And then you have a podcast. I, for one, know how draining that is mentally. It's not even like the job to talk and it's just mentally exhausting. You want to make sure that you're delivering to your audience. Oh my gosh, where do you get the time?
Oh man, time. I mean, I do some. I mean, you mentioned kind of like 40% of the things I do. I'm also involved with my high school alumni. I was like president of my high school alumni for like 3 years. So there's that. Like I'm involved
40%.
with a lot of other community projects. But I guess I can attribute the time to two things. Like I'm big on self-awareness, right? I'm doing things you're interested in, right? So if you're doing things you're interested in, like they say, it never feels like work, right? And that's kind of like a big thing for me, right? So like I said, a lot of people, you know, they look at, you know, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, oh, tech is the next thing. And there's nothing wrong with tech. Like if that's what it is for you, or even starting a podcast, like I could have easily started a podcast where, you know, we're talking about current events, like, oh, you know, Nicki Minaj broke up with Drake today, or Chris Brown did this, or, you know, that. And those podcasts are cool, kind of like, you know, people just talking or, you know, gossiping about current events. You're fine. There are people who are built for that, but that's not what I'm
That's not
for.
you,
So I decided to do that, stick to my lane, which, you know, is not as, you know, it doesn't gain a lot of traction like the popular podcasts, you know, that break, you know, gossip news and all that good stuff. But it's something I'm interested in. So doing something I'm interested in, you know, helps a lot, you know. And growing up, having a military background, like I discussed earlier, also helps a lot. You know, I grew up in obviously a house, you know, like growing up, like I just thought that was how the world was. Like everyone woke up, you know, everyone had a schedule, everyone made their bed. I went to a military boarding school. I was trying to get into the Nigerian Navy at one point. So, you know, I just grew up, you know, being sporty, you know, participating in sports, structured and disciplined. I thought that's how everyone was. Yeah. So coming out into the world and like seeing people who can maybe going during undergrad, seeing people who just like left their room messy and we're getting late to class and all, like, what the hell's wrong with you, bro? So like those two things help, like being self-aware, doing things I'm interested in and having that discipline to like follow things through. I mean, I can't have a podcast for 3.5 years if I don't have some type of structure to it, right?
Yeah,
so
of course.
Being structured helps. Like I'm not like people think I'm awake every waking day. Like I also relax, I have fun, I do other things, but I'm just structured enough to know that, oh, okay, just like booking this interview, like I told Sissy, okay, let's put it on the calendar. That was the first thing I told you, right? Yeah. Put it on the calendar because I know that, okay, I'm going to be free Saturday evening. I'm going somewhere else to an event from here, but I know I have 90 minutes window. Okay, let's put it on the calendar. Let me do this and then go there. So it's all about like scheduling. The MBA helped as well because, you know, I always say like, MBA is really like a master's of time management and networking, pretty much. Yeah,
I was about to say, I'm like, time management is key, and
exactly.
I have mastered it. I'm working on mine, was juggling.
I haven't mastered it. Like I'm still working on it, but you know, like over time, again, like I'm big on like muscle memory. Like, okay, I'm doing this new thing.
Yeah.
How do I like fit that into the Nosa system to fit with all of the things? So I know that, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, this is Thursday, there's a break. Friday is a slower day. The busier days are on Sunday. Like I just have all these ways to, and you know, we live in the 21st century, so there are a lot of things, you know, very simple things like as simple as Google Calendar. You know, you have auto reminder. Like I have auto reminders on my podcast email. I have like, you know, calendars. You know, you use Zapier sometimes. You know, just make sure that you're not doing a lot of manual processes and, you know, help yourself out. So that's kind of like how I cope. But your initial question was like, I think, what is Culture Class, I think?
Yes. What is that? How can people, you know, join to listen to Culture Class just in case, you know. Yeah. It's almost similar to, I think, Concrete Pastures. I know what it is because I've done my research and I've listened. It's fab. Good. It's great.
Thank you. Culture Class, so that's my podcast. It's a pet project of mine that I really started when I was at American University, right? So I talked about growing up in a military family, traveling everywhere and building that affinity for culture locally in Nigeria. When I, you know, grew up, you know, traveled as well, I got to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is kind of like a hotbed for international cultures compared to other cities in the U.S. Like people come there, you know, just because of the White House, all the multilateral organizations you have in D.C. So I was friends with people from different places like Pakistan, India. Like I said, I'm always open, right? If you're coming to the U.S. or going abroad, like please have an open mind. Like, you know, some people just
100%.
You know, they're Nigerians and they go to the capital of Nigeria, like Houston or New York or Maryland, and like they've been in the US for 10 years and their accent nothing wrong with, you know, your accent not changing or all that. But like, I tend to say that it's just like, oh, they're just within the Nigerian community, go to Nigerian churches. And why are you, you know, abroad? Like, open yourself and see what's out there, right? So Culture Class is kind of like my platform to learn about other cultures. So I have an interview-based podcast where I talk to people from different countries, and I just talk to them kind of like this, right? I talk to them about, you know, where they're from, what their culture is. You know, we talk about religion, you know, just tend to talk about some of those things, and we have a very casual conversation. And through the podcast, not only am I learning and my listeners learning, like my guests as well. They're like, oh wow, they never really knew that this was how people view their culture and stuff. So we've been lucky enough to I've been lucky enough to interview people from about 50 countries in the 3 years plus that I've been there. And, you know, it's cultureclasspodcast.com. So it's culture class, like classroom, cultureclasspodcast.com. Anyone interested in, like, you know, catching up on like episodes that we've done over the years. But, you know, it's just a passion project of mine, you know, just me, you know, it's not all business. So it's this kind of like me feeding my passion as well. So yeah.
Listen, podcasting is, I think for anybody who gets into podcasting, you have to love it, because it's a lot, especially for what we're doing, like what you were saying, like entertainment. Nicki Minaj broke up with this person. Those, I mean, you could read online, but there's certain things like casual conversations like you and I are having right now. This is where like we learn so much. I've learned so much through this conversation right now. You poured so much into the entrepreneurship of your tracking business. And for somebody who's looking to, you know, to open up a business, can take something from what you just said. And, you know, your podcast gives so much. Oh my God. I listened to a few episodes already, and what goes into the names when you guys were talking about somebody's names and what it means into their names and the culture.
Oh man, that's early.
Yes, I went back. I like to go back. 4
or something.
Yes, no. If I listen to someone's podcast, like or the groups that we're on, I like to go back to their early. I'm like, let me listen to it, because the new ones, we change, we're transitioning as we go. Yeah. So I'm like, let me listen to them when they were, you know, just starting up. So it's very different. And what you sound like before, like even for me, I sound very different from my first episodes to now. And I'm still growing through this process. But it's great to see you and to hear everything that you have to pour into the community. I ask this to everybody. At this point, you haven't been here as long as me, but do you feel you found your concrete pastures?
I mean, we're constantly on the road, right, to hopefully arrive there someday. I don't know if I'll ever arrive at a place where I can say, okay, this is fine. And that's just, you know, based off my nature. I'm always someone who believes in continuous self-improvement. On my birthday every year, what I spend most of the day doing is self-reflection. You know, I don't really spend the day partying or doing anything like that. I tend to think, okay, this year, what's happening? What am I doing? What am I putting out into the world this year? Either based on stuff I'm already working on or, you know, new initiatives that I think, because all these, the funny thing is that all these things I'm doing, like, they're like 20% of things that are in my head. Like, if I had like 3 brains and like 10 arms and I could like clone myself, I'd probably be doing more, but I'm just limited, right? Due to being human, but I'm trying to get more out there as much as I can. Concrete pastures.
And you will. It's all about the dream, and your dream is big. So if you don't have it right now, and that's okay. I've had guests, it's like, I don't think I'm there yet, but I'm working towards that.
Yeah, I'm definitely not there yet. I think one short-term goal I have as far as like the financial side is concerned. So I have this thing with my brother, we call it 5 by 2025, right? Like having 5 different streams of income by the year 2025. And these are just, you know, money that just come in, mostly passive, you know, that type of thing. So that's kind of like short-term. In the long term, I really want to directly affect 1,000 people. I feel like that's like my legacy by the time I'm like 70 or something, like, 1,000 people, either that's, through like my nonprofit, which I haven't started yet, or through the podcast, or through business as far as mentorship, or through, education, something. I really want to like pour into 1,000 people, like directly, not indirectly, of people who are just like listening to my story, like getting to interact with 1,000 people, most of them from the continent. So that's kind of like what I'm working towards now, in a short term on the income side, long term on the legacy side with 1,000 people. So Concrete Pastures would kind of like be inching my way towards those goals, but it'll probably take like 20 years, to be honest. So I'm just every day, chipping away at those. So yeah.
Talk about dreaming. Oh my God. You are the ultimate dreamer over here. Right. I love it. No, right. I love it. I'm a dreamer myself, and I love to have conversations with my fellow dreamers like you. It's free. Why not dream as big as you can? And,
if you're not dreaming, you're sleeping, right?
Exactly. What advice would you give somebody that's in Nigeria or somewhere around the world are dreaming to come to the US? Like today, what advice would you give them after what, we've been through what's going on and all of that?
Yeah. I'm a very huge proponent of self-awareness. So like in everything you do, and I can apply it to this question as well, but even beyond that, it's important for you to be self-aware, right? It's nice to get inspiration from other people. Like I said, my brother was Moses, we got inspiration from him. He went before us, right? But everyone's path is different, right? Really be self-aware. Like you need to understand, okay, given the current climate, if I'm above 30, does it really make sense for me to go the school route? It might, but hey, if I'm above 30, I have a family, I really can't be spending, 2 years, 3 years frolicking the school. I need a more direct, path to immigration. How much money do I have in my bank? Can I afford to go, the business route? Or, even though I'm above 30 because I don't have a lot of money, okay, let me do this instead, so self-awareness is key. Once you know, okay, this is the kind of person I am, this is my position, and this is a country I want to go to, then you start to research, right? Okay, the US, what are the states that are more friendly towards immigration? What are the states that are more friendly towards schooling? What are the states that are more friendly towards business? What are the states that are cheaper to live? Things like that. And please have a plan. Like, coming abroad, please have a plan. Like a lot of people, like time goes by so fast. Like you hear stories, especially our brothers and sisters are in Europe, they come and, they spent 8, 9 years, 10 years, maybe nothing too much. And it's not easy, don't get me wrong, but not too much to show for it. And now they're stuck in this limbo of, they can't go back home because their people are thinking, they're balling, but they're not quite balling. And so having a plan, plans always change, but it helps to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to school 2023. I'm going to finish by 2025. I'm going to go to Michigan State University, for instance, because I know that Ford and General Motors, hire from Michigan State University a lot, and I want to get into car manufacturing. I'm going to go to school in Michigan State. This is how I'm going to pay for it. When I come out in 2025, I want to get into either Ford or General Motors. And then this is the kind of role I see myself doing. And for Ford and General Motors, this is the type of people they've hired in the past. And this is how I'm going to fit my resume and experience to kind of like be closer to that. And after I work there for 3-4 years, I want to go back to Tanzania and start my own car factory. That's the plan, right? So you then start to equate. Don't just come and oh yeah, I'm just going anywhere. Why are you going to the state you're going to? Why are you going to the country you're going to? Why are you starting the business you're starting? Why, everything has to answer a question that has to fit into the ultimate goal and plan, right? It's okay to write it down. It's okay to have it mentally, and it's okay to change it if, things happen or life happens, but just have a plan and be self-aware and know how you're going to fit into that plan. So, yeah.
Oh. Nosa, you have so much nuggets, so much wisdom to share with all of us. So thank you so much. last question. Normally, I leave a quote for my audience. What do you live by? What inspires you? It could be a quote. It could be whatever.
What inspires me? I have a lot of things, to be honest, but, my dad is a very difficult person to please. So sometimes I feel like I spend my life trying to living to please him. But I don't know, but he has this saying that he always had this thing he used to say growing up, and he says it till now. He says, I have nothing and I lack nothing. That's what he'll say. And wow. It has always stuck to me. It was like, look, I'm not the richest guy out there. I'm not, the president of the US, whatever. I have nothing, but at the same time, I lack nothing. Like, everything I need, I have. I'm comfortable enough, and I'm impacting my immediate community. Like, I might not be impacting on a global scale like Justin Bieber, but I'm impacting enough on my local community. And looking at him, where he came from someone who grew up in the village, who couldn't afford books for school and had to farm to get his way and join the Nigerian military. Like, I feel like I owe it to my future generation to at least like take that up a notch. Yeah. And then my children can also take that up a notch, and we can continue from there. So just I like to live by that in a way that I have nothing and I lack nothing. I don't really focus too much on material things, but it's more so on impact. Like, I want to be able to leave this world to know that, okay, I left deposits of values and different things in different people. That's kind of like what I kind of like live by. And we don't get out of this thing alive, right? We all die at the end of the day. So what can we do in the limited time that we have in order to create some kind of impact, whatever that might be for you? It's different for everyone. Back to the self-awareness piece. So yeah, that's kind of like one thing I kind of like live by, but there are several other things, but that's one I can leave your listeners with.
You, sir, have been very inspirational. You've poured into the community. Thank you so much for being here. And I know you gotta go. So we're gonna end here, but I appreciate you for being here and for pouring into the community. Thank you.
Well, most definitely. Thank you so much for having, I appreciate you so much, Nancy, for having me on your podcast. I really see you as a doer, and, I appreciate that a lot. In the span of 2 weeks or 3 weeks that we've known each other, we've just been getting stuff. And I appreciate how you follow up and you text and everything, cause a lot of people some people have been, aren't we supposed to do this other thing? Or the person, oh yeah, we'll get to that. But, just you that I met less than a month ago, we're very we're making progress. So thank you as well. Concrete Pastures, I love what you guys are doing. I told Chulu when I come to Southern Africa, to Zambia, Devil's Pool, we got to make that happen. So
for sure.
I'll probably be calling you for tips and stuff when I make that happen as well. So
no, for sure. Listen, we're all family, and why not? We're all trying to deposit something before we leave this earth. And why not inspire the people that we can inspire? We all have our own audiences, and whoever is, your audience, my audience, we want to make sure that we leave something for them. So thank you so much. Nosa, thank you so much for an amazing conversation. Thank you for inspiring the community. I appreciate you. Guys, I truly wanted to have this conversation with Nosa because a lot of us, when we go to other countries, it's very hard to get employment. Or you do find employment, you're not too happy about it. And do we think about starting a business and having somebody who already has a business talk about it? I wanted for us to have some takeaways from this conversation. I hope you took notes. If you haven't, I would encourage that you listen to the conversation one more time or 3 times, however times that you want to get some of the important information that he was saying as well in there. I would encourage that if you start a business, make sure you provide a product or service that connects to you as a person. And sales to me, is more personable. When the more people relate to you, to your product, to your service that you're providing, the easier of a buy-in you're going to have. That's just my opinion. I've been in the sales industry for a while, and what has worked for me is to be more personable and be relatable to people. And this way the buy-in is a little bit easier for me. And I can say that I've been successful. The thing is, if you want to take your business to the next level, I would also encourage you guys, set up a website. People are able to find you on your website, read more about your business, also connect with you more on your website. It's your website. You design it the way you want people to see you. I have a connection for any website. I've spoken about Erin Harris, the one who created our website, concretepastures.com. You can find her on ET Marketing 808. Her name is Erin Harris. Her Instagram page is E as in Eric, T as in Tom, Marketing 808. All right, feel free to reach out. Having a website takes you to a whole different level. You connect with your clientele on a different level as well. I love the quote that Nosa said, I have nothing and I lack nothing. I think it's powerful. We come on this earth with nothing, and when we leave with nothing as well. You can interpret it the way you want, but that's how I'm taking it to heart. Let's support all of our guests that come on Concrete Pastures. All of us have some type of business out there. Let's support each other. fmgradio.com. Let's make sure we tune in together. All right? Thank you again for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you get yours. Share it with your family and friends. Tag me on your social media. I have Facebook, I have Instagram, whichever one that you use. I would also love to hear from you. Leave me a review. And if there's a topic you have in mind that you'd love for me to cover, let me know as well. Look out for new episodes every week on Mondays. And I truly appreciate you being part of the community and supporting the community. Until next time, keep dreaming.
Born and raised in the motherland, chasing a better life. Story of an immigrant.
Concrete pastures.
Concrete pastures.